To blame a decision like that on somebody else is just, it's elementary, my dear Watson. Hey there. Welcome back. I feel like you guys are way overdue for some regular content, and I am so ready to get back to making regular content. So I thank you so much for being patient. I feel like I've said that on my last few videos, but I think it's really about time that I start making time for YouTube, for watching YouTube videos and paying attention to YouTube culture and commentating on it. So I did want to make a quick video. I always say quick video. Is it ever a quick video? We'll see. But I wanted to hop on and address a couple of the questions that you guys have had for me that really encapsulate my thoughts on everything that's gone on over the summer in terms of the YouTube space and somewhat my involvement in it. A lot of you asked me for my thoughts on the whole Dramageddon, Karmageddon, whatever you want to call it, that involved Shane Dawson and Jeffree and by association, people like Tati Westbrook. And then the other question a lot of you have for me is, after having your personal involvement with Gabbie Hanna, for lack of a better way to put it, are you going to continue to make videos about her? So I kind of wanted to cover both of those topics. Now, I will say, when it comes to any drama that involves people like Jeffree and Shane Dawson, I do have my thoughts on those situations, but they're not as fleshed out all the time as my thoughts on other YouTubers, just because they don't exist in a space that I find that interesting. I know there's a lot that goes on there. I think it really just has more to do with my overall thoughts on those two men individually, as well as the kind of drama they get wrapped up in, if that makes any sense. I was aware as soon as Jenna Marbles posted her video taking accountability for the poor choices she made years ago. I saw that video, I heard what she had to say, and I understood where she was coming from. Of course, I'm so sad that Jenna Marbles is leaving YouTube, at least for the time being. But at the same time, she expressed that she's not having fun in this space anymore, and that is something that I more or less picked up on over the past year or so. And then, of course, that kind of started this domino effect with other creators where other YouTubers were making videos where they took responsibility for and addressed issues surrounding their own reputations, their own poor choices in the past. And Shane Dawson was one of those creators that tried to step up and take accountability for what he'd done in the past. Of course, I'm not going to report on this and tell you guys what happened, because that is such cold tea and it's been reported so much and by people who can do a much better job than me. But just to give my thoughts, first on Shane's original kind of taking accountability video. I was a fan of that video in particular because of one thing he said. Specifically, he talked about some distasteful jokes he's made in the past, and of course all the same stuff that he's gotten in trouble for, that he's been criticized for. And he did say something about how we all deserve an apology, even if that meant that he lost his career over it, that it was more important that he make right with those decisions. It's been a while since that happened, so maybe I'll insert a clip here of the part that I'm talking about that really kind of left a good taste in my mouth after watching that video.
It seems like something that is irredeemable, or I don't know the right word, but it's something that I shouldn't even be able to get out of. I should lose everything for that. It's something that I should have probably lost my career for. And a lot of that is stuff that you probably will never forgive me for. And maybe you didn't know about all those old videos. I 100% understand. I'm willing to lose everything. To finally just own up to all of this and be accountable is worth losing everything to me. And I am not saying that as like a lie or for sympathy. I'm being honest.
But then we get to the video Tati Westbrook made around that time, where she addressed her involvement with Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star around the time of the whole bi-sister scandal. We saw Shane go off the rails with his reaction to that video.
I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. This is so This is... Oh my God.
We saw/heard just about nothing from Jeffree Star for a while. So my thoughts started to kind of evolve around that time. I will say, when it comes to Tati Westbrook, when I first watched the bi-sister video, I did find her to be very poised, very respectable, somebody that I could believe. And the more I heard her talk about the situation, the more I thought about it. First off, before all of this recent stuff happened, going back to just the bi-sister video when that happened, it did beg certain questions, like, if James Charles is such a danger to society, why are you only now bringing this up now that your business is at stake? That's nothing new. That's not an original thought or an original question. A lot of people have brought that up. I would have had a lot more respect for a video like that if it hadn't been on the heels of a falling out between friends over something like the Sugar Bear hair brand deal, Coachella, blah, 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 blah. If the information were factual and it were really just Tati's way of saying, hey, I don't know any other way to get through to this person who was my friend, who I tried to get through to over the past few years. This is a last resort. But she didn't. So there seems to be a lack of separation of church and state there when you're talking about their personal involvement and Tati's business and where she benefits or is hurt financially being tied to her ideals and really the morals and values of James Charles and whether or not she believed that he was a man of integrity, more or less. And for the past year or so, I think it's been about that long, that whole thing and Tati Westbrook in general have just kind of sat a little funny with me. Just kind of, I started to look at this person who seemed so prim and proper and poised, and I don't want to call that phony. It's not like I believe that she is a dramatic mess when she's off screen. I don't know her off screen, but that's exactly why I can't say that I think that she is a phony, that she is nothing like that. But I do think that air about her is not relatable, and it tries very hard, in my opinion, to seem so right that she's almost not even human. But then if you read between the lines and you get more context, you find that she is human, that she is capable of making poor decisions. She is capable of looking out for her best interests and putting that before her morals and values. So it's interesting, not something, like I said, I've delved too far into. So when she came out with this recent video talking about how Jeffree and Shane essentially pressured her to make this video about James, at that point, it was all bullshit to me. Not that I think it's a lie that Jeffree and Shane were involved in that way. I think for me, it got to a point where it was like, okay, you are almost 40 years old and you are pinning your actions on two other creators. It's just, that lady doesn't sit well with me at this point. I've just decided that, to blame a decision like that on somebody else is just, it's elementary, my dear Watson. This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now. If they gave you reason to want to tear down somebody's livelihood, then it is your fault for taking that deal, whatever that was. As for Shane and Jeffree, Jeffree's a shit person. I think that has been made very clear. I don't think there's much else to say about him. I haven't commentated on him much because he just is a shit person. I kind of liked seeing him with Shane for a little bit because I thought perhaps Shane was a good influence on him and they had a good dynamic. And to some degree that might be true, that they both influenced each other, and perhaps in some ways Shane made Jeffree better and Jeffree made Shane worse. But at the end of the day, Jeffree is looking out for Jeffree. And everything that we've seen with videos that other people have come out with that speak to Jeffree's continued racist behavior, it's very clear. This is a person who is only looking out for himself, absolutely no one else. And it also just doesn't sit well with me that he's just so fucking tacky. I think that this is all speculation. I can't say for sure what people think, but I get the impression that Jeffree thinks he is above people who make less money than him, which is most people. And I think that he equates money to class. I think that he thinks that he is this well-respected, classy, successful business mogul. And some of those words are true of him, but I just find first of all, his taste, an all pink house with pinball machines in the living room, and just, gives me a headache to look into his life, which might be the reason that I don't talk about him that much. But aside from his taste in interiors and other things, I'm going back on anything positive that I might have thought of him around the time that he was working with Shane on Shane's palette, on anything that he worked on with Shane before that, with around Karmageddon of 2018, around the beauty community. I don't often like to believe that people are just straight up fake, but in Jeffree, I see fake. I see nothing but fake. I see nothing but an opportunist and what will help this person, even if that means tearing down those around him. And I think that includes Shane Dawson. Now, I don't think Shane Dawson is by any means an angel, and I never did think that about him. In fact, I've been criticized on my channel for saying that we shouldn't put certain creators, even super beloved creators, on a pedestal. I've been criticized for saying that, and then right after I say something like that, then something goes wrong with that creator. And it just goes to prove the point that nobody on this platform or in life is as good as their biggest fans think they are, or as bad as their worst enemies think they are. So with Shane, I always knew that he had edgy humor that was very tasteless at times, very offensive at times. I wasn't aware of the video of him in front of the poster of Willow Smith when she was 11 years old, and I wasn't aware of the video he made with his then girlfriend Lisa, with his cousin, talking to her about stuff that you guys probably already know about. I wasn't aware of those videos, and I'll be honest, both of those things disgusted me. More so than anything I've ever really heard Shane apologize for. So, and then the way he acted on Insta story on live, watching Tati's video, kind of just spiraling out.
You are so manipulative.
Think of facing public.
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my God.
It just, to me, that rubbed me wrong. That felt weird. It didn't feel, it's not even a professionalism thing. It just, Alicia, insert some adjectives here that might describe it, but I also don't know that there's a word for exactly how that struck me. But I will say that I don't think that Shane Dawson is an evil, terrible person, just as I never thought that he was a sweet angel. But I also think it's no coincidence that he got wrapped up with Jeffree Star and everything fell apart for him. I don't think that's a coincidence. We saw Shane Dawson step into the beauty community. Jeffree Star put a figure in front of him. I think it was something like $25 million. And in my opinion, that was the moment that Shane sold his soul to the devil, because he's been on the platform for so long, creating content that he loved, or content to entertain, whether that was tasteful content or not. he was doing it for the art. I remember when he talked to Jake Paul, I think he talked about these new age YouTubers that have fuck you money. And he says, I've never had fuck you money. So in a way, he stayed relatable for a while. And then getting involved with Jeffree Star was just the worst decision he's made in terms of how it would affect his career. I totally understand those people who, which is most people, it's a lot of people, who don't ever want to forgive Shane Dawson for jokes and the remarks he's made that were disgusting and offensive. I think people have every right to write him off, cancel him, what have you, for those reasons. I personally don't think that he is a bad person at heart. Taking a look at the people, his core people around him. We're not talking about Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star came in at around, late 2018 for a special, and then they got closer as they started to work on the palette. So looking at Shane's core group, Ryland, Morgan, Garrett Watts, Drew Monson, is that his name? Andrew Sawicki. Those people give us good, wholesome, happy vibes for a reason. I think that they are good people. I think they are reflective of the person that Shane has become. I don't buy that he is just the most empathetic, compassionate, kind person in the world, and that's why he does what he does. I think that that is a problem. One word that has kind of been thrown a lot around when talking about Shane Dawson is he's just an empath. He's an empath. And I think that that is a concept we need to seriously take a second look at instead of identifying with traits like that and seeing them as nothing but positive. I think that it's about time that he take a look at those behaviors and feelings and see if there might actually be something underlying that isn't the healthiest. I'm not a professional, but I have been diagnosed. I have been psychoanalyzed. Some people have labeled me an empath, and I usually tell them, no, that is simply me being highly intuitive and codependent. So that's somewhat of a joke when I say it, but I do think that it speaks to my opinion on chalking up people's unhealthy behaviors to something they want to see as positive, although there may be beautiful qualities of those characterizations. So I'm getting way off topic and onto some kind of tangent here at this point. I realize that I could probably talk at length about what I do think of Shane Dawson. I don't know that he will be able to recover from this. Some people believe, and I believed until not long ago, that nobody is ever truly canceled. So we'll see. We'll see if he's able to make a comeback. But at the same time, I don't know that I ever saw him as somebody that was happy on the platform either. So I hope that with the few money that he made with Jeffree, if that means that it's time for him to retire and just enjoy his relationship with Ryland, then I wouldn't begrudge him for that. Now, as for whether or not I will continue to make videos about Gabbie Hanna, a lot of people have asked that. It is a sticky situation because I used to make videos, commentary videos, many of which involved Gabbie Hanna, where I analyzed her behaviors from my perspective, gave my opinions on how she conducted herself, her business, her platform, her relationships, etc. And now here I am in a place where I have thoughts on how she's conducting her business, her platform, her relationships, etc. The difference now is that I have had a personal involvement with Gabbie Hanna. So that muddies the waters a little bit. It surely makes it difficult for my opinions on her to be unbiased, and possibly even harder for anyone else to see my criticisms as anything other than a bias or a grudge. So I do understand where some of my audience thinks that I shouldn't talk about her anymore. However, if I were to stop talking about Gabbie Hanna, I would be giving her exactly what she wanted when she sent a hate mob on me back in June. And we're not going to let that happen. So I would like to continue commentating on Gabbie Hanna and what's going on with her in the public eye. I don't know if that means that I need to take some time away from talking about her or if I just soldier on and give my thoughts. We'll see. I'll definitely pay attention to the feedback you guys have, but I have decided that I'm not going to be silenced. Furthermore, before all of that happened, I had a complicated opinion of her where I was a fan of her content. I liked a couple of her songs, and I really liked her podcast that she did with Irene, who is no longer on the podcast. And of course, for some time after our involvement, the sight of her face and the sound of her voice would incite some pretty strong anxiety in me. But I've noticed that that has since left. I have found myself watching her content again simply for entertainment. I don't know if I will continue to now that Irene has left the podcast because their dynamic is what I found to be interesting. I'm still listening to those couple songs that I like of hers. So I find that I am kind of back in the same place I was before where I am able to separate the art from the artist. And I think and I hope that Gabbie will start to put some distance between those things too, because I want to watch her podcast. I want to hear her thoughts on this, that, and the other. However, when I hear her say things like her fans are being bullied when she sent her fans and they actively antagonized people, when she says things like she would never want to just cause anybody torment just for the sake of hurting them. Like,
you could expose literally everybody, but you don't.
I'm reading the messages. Like,
It's not my place as another human being, whether what I think you're doing is wrong or evil. It's not my place to bring penance on you.
I'm showing people that you are two-faced and a backstabber.
Good people don't do that.
things that I hear her say when she talks about her personal life and her own drama, and knowing from a personal standpoint that the things that she's saying, even if she wants to believe they're true, are simply untrue and hurtful to the people who have been personally targeted by her. So I'm going to think about it. I'm going to test the waters, see how possible it is for me to return to a similar type of content I was making before. Though I do appreciate those of you who understand that my content is evolving. I've been on the platform for six months now, more or less. Which is a short time, but in that time, obviously a lot of crazy shit has gone down. But some people have noticed a change in my affect, and I really appreciate those of you who see that as me growing more comfortable with myself and being less careful about stepping on anyone's toes, because I know in my heart that my opinions on these things come from a good place. They're not the only right answer. They're what's right for me right now. I reserve the right to change my mind at any time. I think I said that in our upcoming podcast. I reserve the right to change my mind at any time about anyone, about any situation. And I'm open to that. I can be pretty flexible about my opinions of people. However, I am really appreciating the space to be unapologetic about who I am and what I think. That's the whole reason I came here. That's the whole reason I started a YouTube channel. I'm certainly not going to let anybody silence me or make me feel as though I can't talk about those things that I want to talk about. So nothing's really off limits at this point. If you've watched my podcast with Amber and Girlmance podcast, then you know that there's not really anything I won't talk about. So
I'd rather you know what my bum looks like than all my...
guys.
Than all my deep dark secrets.
So yeah, let's soldier on. Let's be unapologetic about who we are while staying flexible in our opinions. I think that is a very healthy approach and definitely one that I want to take. But more important, I want to be a person who is resilient. And I also appreciate those of you who have seen that in me, who have been by my side and have cheered me on while I continued to plant my feet here on this platform and stubbornly say, I'm not going anywhere yet. With that, things are going great. I certainly need to get the gears turning again with this regular content. But I will say in the past several weeks where I've kind of just been recovering from this new side of the internet that I've been introduced to, I've really started to beef up other platforms. I am now a Twitch streamer who plays World of Warcraft. That's rude. No, don't you say that. Am I good at it? Probably not, but I'm doing it. I have my Patreon as well. That is over the summer been integrated with our Discord server. So that has created an amazing place that is just like super safe and wonderful. And I love all of you who are there. You guys really do create a really great corner of the internet where people can feel safe. That place, at least for now, feels sacred. I know that that's not necessarily a permanent thing, but for now, that place has been fantastic. I've made some amazing friends, as you guys know. Big Six. I'm shouting you guys out. I love you so, so, so much. But yeah, I appreciate all of you who are cheering me on and all of you who are watching because you want to see me fail. Thanks for the views and the engagement, because your girl's here to stay for now. So thank you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.